Here we have an expensive ROG Strix laptop. That's what the customer wrote. Expensive ROG Strix, model number G513QY. That came in for no power. We already disassembled the board right here. And the customer mailed this over because laptop is not powering on. Let's read what the customer wrote. The customer wrote, I'm pretty sure I have the exact same issue from the YouTube video I found you guys on. My laptop won't power on. There's no power indicator light. The battery and the power supply are working. I was playing a video game and it shut down, but I was able to get it back on, and then it shut down again while watching a movie. This time it didn't turn back on, and it's been off since. It's less than a year old. So the laptop is less than a year old and it failed. Why did it fail? I have no idea, but we're gonna have to inspect and see what's going on. Now we have the DC power connector where we plug the charger, and right above we have two MOSFETs. Let's measure at the drain of the top MOSFET, meter in diode mode, and we have it that short. Wow, right away. We figured out the problem in half a second. Okay, 0 voltage drop. What's new with ASUS? Other than short circuit, right? But the laptop is only 1 year old. How did this happen? Customer said he was playing a game. It shut on him, then he was watching a movie. It shut down again and it won't power on again. We already did initial inspection. Big Boss already went over the laptop, tried to power it on, disconnect the battery, check the voltage on the charger, all the basics he already did. And no signs of life. Right now what I want to do is inject voltage. We're going to use our NorthridgeFix NF.short voltage injection tool. And we're going to monitor the board under a thermal camera and see what gets hot on the board. If there's a short circuit on the board, something must get hot when we inject voltage. We're going to go to our thermal camera and I'm going to inject voltage where I measured for a short. How many volts should you inject? You can start with 1 volt, 1.2, 1.3. You can go up to 1.8 without any issues. If you still do not see any heat spots, then you can push it to the limits and try your luck with 2. If it's dead anyway and you're not able to find the short by injecting 1.8 volts, it means nothing is really being affected on that board. You can go up on the voltage. But if you inject 1 volt and the CPU gets hot, you do not want to inject more. More, yes, maybe 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, but do not go crazy. And when you inject, only for like 2 or 3 seconds. Do not inject, go drink a coffee and come back and keep the probe on the board. Do not do that. So what's getting hot on the board? Okay, I got it. But what's this? What is this right here? I think heat is coming from back of the board because heat looks diffused. I do not see a sharp spot on this side of the board. Let's take a look at the back. It could be one of those 2 DR MOSFETs, and that's very common on ASUS laptops. But before we pinpoint which one is at fault, let me just flip the board. Heat is coming from one of those 2 DR MOSFETs. And oh, look at this. If you look on back of the board, right here, flip the board, I see something corroded or something white. Some capacitors on the back. Is it liquid damage? Because the customer mentioned nothing about liquid damage. Maybe a component blew and created, oh, that's a Hiroshima here. That's not just your normal average failed component. That looks like corrosion. It looks like liquid hit the area. The customer said laptop is less than a year old. Maybe he sent it in for warranty and they refused. I don't know. A lot of people do not do warranties because it takes a long time to get the laptop back. 2 months, 3 months. And that's why we get a lot of devices that still has warranty on them. We do not know the history of this laptop. Maybe the person bought it off somebody, even though it's less than a year old. I mean, the damage is obvious. We could have one shorted capacitor, we could have two, we could have three, or maybe all of them. Let me just measure to make sure that we have a short in this area. We should. We have a 0 voltage drop and we have a 0 voltage drop. So we do have a short circuit and all those capacitors are connecting in parallel. If one of them shorts out, the whole row is going to short out. So let's start with this unique, good-looking capacitor right here. Maybe the short is coming from that guy. If not, then we'll figure it out. We'll eventually figure it out. That's ugly. Oh, the smell. What kind of smell is this? Bye-bye. Look at this. This cap may still be good. We're gonna measure it. But this guy is gone. Do we have a short on this capacitor? And we do. This cap is shorted. And this guy, we do not even need to measure this deceased person. Caps are human beings, in case you did not know. They have feelings too. Sometimes they feel like shorting out, and sometimes they feel like just failing for no reason. Now the question is, do we still have a short? Do we still have a short? And the answer is, the short is gone. We're done. We are done. Right? Now, one thing I want to do for people wondering about the values of those capacitors, because I always get that question, what is the value of that capacitor that you replaced? I always mention values of capacitors of known models I work on every day, but let me desolder, let me go over this. I'm gonna desolder this one here. We're gonna measure it. And we're gonna assume that this one, the value of this one is the same as this. It doesn't really matter. Those caps are bypass capacitors. Okay. That cap already lost a leg, so we may have to replace both. All right, now let's measure them. But before we do, I'm gonna cool down that board. Do not measure capacitors while they are hot because they're gonna give you the wrong reading. See, I tried to stabilize that capacitor so we do not lose it, but that cap already lost a leg from the back. It's all right. Let me flip it to the side. Okay, so now it's solid. It's making a connection only from one side so we can safely and accurately measure that component. You do not want to measure capacitors in circuits, so you know what? I don't want to keep going over this back and forth. Meter in capacitance mode, and I'm using an LCR meter. We're gonna measure this guy right here, and that's 10 microfarads. And if we measure here, we have 2.3 microfarads. And I've got mini pen, the soldering pen, to the rescue. If you are in the same type of business or you are doing this as a hobby, you can purchase all your tools from our site, including this amazing NF.mini soldering pen, genuine Amtech Flux, the solder wire, this amazing microscope, articulating arm, anti-glare light, which I'm not using right now because I do not need it. But let's put the anti-glare light on and see what difference it makes. See? Awesome. Now we do not see any glare. Right now I do not want to use hot air because if I do use hot air, then those two capacitors I just put on the board will fly away. So we're going to secure them at least from one end, and then I can use hot air. And we still need to solder one more component right here, 10 microfarads. Let me start with this. This one goes here. Oh. That's what I did not want to happen, but that's okay. Let me grab a 10 microfarads capacitor, and those caps are a common value on a lot of laptops. You can also purchase those caps off our site. We sell them in 805 and 1206 size. Most common ones. We're gonna grab a Amtech wipe. And while at it, you can add a Amtech wipe to the shopping cart because you will need it. 100%. I apply alcohol over Amtech wipe using the NorthridgeFix brush, and you're gonna have better than factory results. Which isopropyl alcohol are you using? Anything over 90% is good. I'm using 99%, but you may not be able to buy 99% if you live in a certain area or a certain country. 93% is okay, 91% is okay, 97% is okay, but do not buy 70% because it contains a lot of water. So anything over 90 is good. And we're done. Better than factory. Better than factory, right? I'm gonna hand the board over to Big Boss to reassemble and test, and I'll be back to finish the video. Big Boss is done with the reassembly, and let's see what's going on.
Bismillah.
Yes, yes. The laptop is fixed. Boss of all bosses. Awesome job. We did it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Leave it down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll do something else in the next video.